My life was auctioned off for less than the price of a car. That's how it started. That's how everything ended, too. The room stank of sweat, smoke, and fear. People sat in velvet seats, drinking champagne like it was a show. And I was the entertainment. They called me Lot 47. Not Aiden. Not even boy. Just a number. The man on stage read my details like he was listing parts of a car. Healthy. Young. Pure blood Omega. No marks. The crowd laughed, some whistled. Their voices were sharp, loud, cruel. I stood under the light, hands tied, barely able to breathe. Every second felt like a year. My throat was dry. My legs were shaking. I tried to look down, not at them. If I didn't see their faces, maybe it would hurt less. They said my brother owed money. Too much. And when he ran, they took me instead. I was the payment. The Omega younger brother. An easy way to settle a debt. 100,000, someone shouted. The auctioneer grinned. Do I hear 150? Voices rose all around me. 150. 200. 250. Each number hit me like a slap. They were buying me. Arguing over me like I was something you could weigh or measure. I bit my lip to stop myself from crying. Tears make them bid higher. I'd learned that. Then it got quiet. The bid stopped. The man at the podium looked bored. Going once, going twice. And then, from the back of the room, a voice said, 10 million. The air froze. Even my heartbeat stopped. It wasn't loud, but everyone heard it. Smooth, deep, steady. Like it didn't belong in that filthy place. The auctioneer blinked. "Es, sir, did you say?" 10, the man repeated. Cash. People turned to look. I did too. He stood in the shadows, tall, broad shoulders, wearing black. He didn't look excited. Or drunk. He looked dangerous. Calm. Like the world bent around him. I heard whispers ripple through the crowd. Lucian Moretti. The Mafia lord? Why would he want an Omega? Even I knew that name. Lucian Moretti. The man who ran half the city's underground. Cold. Untouchable. A name people said only in whispers. Sold, the auctioneer said, voice shaking. To Mr. Moretti. The sound of the gavel felt like thunder in my skull. That was it. Sold. Guards untied my wrists. My skin stung. They dragged me off the stage, toward the man who'd bought me. He waited near the door, silent, unreadable. His eyes were dark, the kind of dark that saw everything. And when they pushed me toward him, he said quietly, "You're shaking." I couldn't look at him. "Please don't hurt me." He studied me for a long moment. Then he said something I didn't understand. "I didn't buy you to hurt you. You were already being destroyed." Before I could speak, a gunshot rang out. Screams. Chaos. The world exploded around me. "Get down," someone yelled. I dropped to the floor. My ears rang. My heart went wild. The air filled with smoke and shouting. Bullets tore through walls. Someone screamed, "Varelli gang." It's an ambush. Lucian moved faster than anyone I'd ever seen. He grabbed my wrist and yanked me behind a pillar. Gunfire thundered through the room. He drew his weapon, one smooth motion, and fired back. Precise. Deadly. His face didn't change. He looked like a storm made of glass and fire. "Stay down," he said. His voice was calm. Unbreakable. I stayed. Because that tone it didn't ask. It commanded. When the noise paused, he grabbed my arm again. "Move." We ran through a side hallway, bodies, smoke, blood. I tripped, almost fell, but he didn't slow down. He just kept pulling me forward until we burst into the night. Rain hit my face like knives. A black car waited at the curb. Lucian pushed me inside, slid in after me, and said, "Drive." The car shot forward. The city lights blurred into gold streaks against the rain. I pressed against the seat, shaking. I didn't know if I should thank him or beg him to let me go. Lucian took off his gloves, wiped blood from his jaw. Then he looked at me. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head. No, I'm fine." "Don't lie." "I said I'm fine," I whispered. "Sir." His eyes softened just a little. "Don't call me that." "What should I call you then?" "Lucian." The name felt heavy in my mouth. "Lucian, why did you buy me?" For a second, I thought he wasn't going to answer. The rain filled the silence between us. Finally, he said quietly, "Because I don't like people owning what doesn't belong to them." I blinked. "I don't belong to you either." He turned his head then, really looked at me. And in that gaze, I saw something strange. Not anger. Not pity. Something softer. Sadder. "No," he said. "You don't. You're under my protection now." Protection. It sounded like another word for cage. I looked out the window again. Behind us, the night sky flashed orange. The auction house, the place that sold me, was on fire. Flames climbed into the clouds. Screams disappeared into smoke. Lucian didn't look back. He just said, almost to himself, "No one else walks out of that place alive." I stared at the burning light until my reflection disappeared in the glass. All I could think was, maybe I died back there, and this is what comes after. I turned to him. "Am I safe now?" He didn't answer. Just stared straight ahead as the city lights faded behind us. And as the car disappeared into the dark, I couldn't tell if I'd been rescued or claimed. When I woke up, I thought I was dead. For a second, I actually hoped I was. Because the room I opened my eyes to didn't look real. It looked like a dream or a lie. Silk sheets. White curtains that moved with the morning wind. The faint smell of expensive cologne and coffee. Too soft, too clean, too safe. I sat up slowly. My wrists still hurt from the rope burns. My head throbbed. There was a cut on my lip, dried blood on my sleeve. And then it all came back. The auction. The fire. Lucian. I looked around. No chains, no locks, no guards. Just an open door and a clock ticking quietly on the wall. I swung my legs off the bed, careful, suspicious. My feet sank into a carpet that probably cost more than my brother's entire debt. When I reached the door, I froze. 2 armed men stood in the hallway. They weren't looking at me, but I knew they were aware of every move I made. One of them spoke into an earpiece. "He's awake." I stepped back. The door opened wider. Lucian walked in. He wasn't wearing a suit this time, just a black shirt, sleeves rolled up, collar loose. But even dressed down, he looked like authority made of flesh. There was a small bandage on his arm. I guessed it was from the shootout. "You're safe here," he said. His voice was the same, calm, unreadable, heavy with control. I didn't answer. I just stared at him. He looked different in daylight. Still dangerous, but human. He crossed the room and set a tray on the table. "Eat something." I didn't move. "What is this place?" "My home." I almost laughed. "You brought me home?" He looked at me for a moment, then nodded once. "Yes." "Why?" "Because it was the safest place I could think of. The safest place, in a Mafia lord's mansion." The irony would have been funny if I wasn't still shaking inside. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the food, eggs, toast, fruit. Normal things. But my stomach twisted too tight to eat. He must have noticed. "You haven't eaten in 2 days," he said. "It's fine," I muttered. "I'm not hungry." "Eat," he repeated, softer this time. And for some reason, I obeyed. He stood there watching quietly as I took a few small bites. The silence between us was thick. I could feel him thinking, analyzing, calculating. Finally, I looked up. "You said I was under your protection." "Yes." "What does that mean?" He didn't blink. "It means no one touches you without my permission." That didn't sound like safety. It sounded like ownership, painted pretty. I swallowed hard. "So I'm still yours." He frowned. "No, you're not mine, Aiden. But if I hadn't bought you, you'd be dead." His words hit me like ice water. I wanted to argue, but part of me knew he was right. If he hadn't stepped in that night, I'd be another nameless Omega on a list of missing persons. Still, I hated that truth. It made me feel small. It made me feel owed. Later that day, I found the courage to explore the mansion. Or maybe I just wanted to see how far I could go before someone stopped me. The place was enormous. Marble floors, endless hallways, chandeliers heavy with light. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a cathedral built for secrets. Every corner had cameras. Every window had guards. Even the air felt guarded. But there was beauty too. Old paintings, quiet gardens outside the glass walls, a piano in the corner of a room nobody touched. The kind of beauty that didn't belong to someone who killed for a living. Lucian appeared in the doorway behind me while I was staring at that piano. "You play?" I jumped. "No. Pity." He came closer, standing beside me. I could smell the faint scent of smoke on him, mixed with rain. I hated that my heartbeat noticed. He leaned on the piano lid, looking at the keys instead of me. "When I was a kid, my brother used to play," he said quietly. "He was terrible, but he tried." I blinked. It was the first personal thing he'd said about himself. "What happened to him?" Lucian's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. After a long moment, he said, "He died. At an auction like the one you were in." My stomach dropped. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He nodded once, still staring at the piano. "That's why I bought you," he said finally. Because I couldn't watch it happen again. Something in my chest broke open. For the first time since I'd met him, I saw the man under the legend, not a monster, but someone haunted. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. We just stood there in silence, surrounded by the ghosts of music that never played. That night, I heard a crash downstairs. A gunshot followed. My heart jumped into my throat. I ran out of the room, barefoot, down the stairs. Lucian was in the living room, gun drawn, staring at the shattered window. Blood dripped from his arm, fresh blood this time. "Stay back," he said sharply when he saw me. "What happened?" "Nothing I can't handle." I ignored him and grabbed the first towel I could find, pressing it against his wound. He tried to push me away. "Aiden, be quiet," I said. My hands were shaking, but I didn't stop. "You're bleeding." He stared at me, surprised. Maybe because no one told him no before. He let me work in silence, his breath uneven. When I finished, I looked up at him. Our faces were too close. I could see the lines under his eyes, the faint scar at his mouth. He smelled like smoke and rain again. "Why do you keep risking your life for me?" I asked softly. He didn't answer right away. Then, barely audible, he said, "Because I already failed once." He stepped back, turning away before I could ask more. "Go back to bed, Aiden." But I didn't. Not for a long time. Days passed. The mansion was both my shelter and my prison. Lucian gave me space, too much space sometimes. I didn't know if he was avoiding me or protecting me from himself. I learned his habits. He woke before dawn, trained with his guards, worked all day behind locked doors. Sometimes I'd see him outside, smoking by the garden, staring at nothing. And sometimes I'd catch him watching me instead, not with lust, but with something heavier. The tension between us grew quietly, like a secret we both pretended not to notice. But every time our eyes met, I felt it. The pull, the fear, the strange safety. One night, I found him in the study, sitting in the dark. Only a single lamp lit the room. He didn't hear me at first. "Lucian." He looked up, startled. "You should be asleep." I couldn't. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Then sit." I did. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, pushed one toward me. I didn't drink, just held it. After a while, I asked, "Why did your brother die?" He stared at his drink for a long time. "Because I wasn't there to stop it," he said finally. "They sold him to the same people who ran your auction. He tried to escape. They shot him in the street." The room went cold. My throat burned. "I'm sorry." Lucian looked up then. His eyes weren't cold anymore. They were filled with grief so deep it didn't know where to go. "You don't have to be sorry," he said. "Just don't end up like him." Something inside me trembled. "I won't," I whispered. "Not while you're here." He stared at me a little too long after that. And then, quietly, he said, "You should rest." But when I stood, he reached out and caught my wrist. Not hard, just enough to make me stop. His voice was low. "Aiden, when I say you're safe here, I mean it. But safety doesn't mean freedom. You understand?" I nodded, even though I wasn't sure I did. His hand lingered for a second before letting go. And the look in his eyes stayed with me long after I left the room. The next morning, everything changed again. It was still dark when the alarms went off. Red lights flashed down the halls. The sound of shouting echoed through the house. I ran out of my room, heart pounding. Guards were already rushing toward the front gate. Lucian appeared from the other side, loading his gun, blood still seeping through his old bandage. "What's happening?" I shouted. He didn't answer, just grabbed my arm and pushed me toward the back hallway. "They found us," he said. "The Varellis. They tracked you here." My blood went cold. "Because of me? Because of what you saw? Because your leverage?" He shoved a handgun into the waistband of his pants and looked straight at me. "I need you to hide. Now." "No," I said, shaking my head. "I'm not leaving you alone again." He almost smiled, but it wasn't happy. "You don't get to make that call." Another explosion outside. The windows rattled. He cursed under his breath and grabbed my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "If anything happens, remember this. I chose to save you. Don't waste that choice." "Lucian." He didn't let me finish. He pushed me toward the panic room door and hit the control panel. The metal door began to slide shut. I saw him turn away, gun raised, walking straight toward the noise and chaos. Then the door sealed. Darkness swallowed me. And for the first time since the night of the auction, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't afraid of dying anymore. I was afraid of losing him. When the panic room door sealed, The silence was worse than the gunfire. All I could hear was my own breathing. Shallow. Fast. Loud. The metal walls pressed in like a coffin. I hit the control panel again. Nothing. Locked from the outside. Lucian had trapped me in safety. And safety felt like hell. I slid down the wall, knees pulled to my chest, every second stretching forever. The floor vibrated with distant explosions. Then, footsteps above. Running. Shouting. I couldn't stand it anymore. I found the emergency release and pulled. The door hissed open an inch. Smoke drifted in. And the moment I smelled blood and gunpowder, I ran. The hallway was chaos. Guards shouting orders, bullets ripping through the windows, glass crunching under my feet. The world was red light and noise. Lucian! I screamed, but my voice vanished in the noise. I followed the sound of gunfire through the east wing. When I turned the corner, I saw him. Lucian, crouched behind a marble pillar, firing with one hand, blood running down the other. 3 men in Varelli colors were closing in. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed a fallen guard's pistol and fired without thinking. The recoil nearly tore my arm off, but one of them dropped. Lucian's head jerked toward me. His eyes widened in shock and fury. Aiden, what the hell are you doing? Saving you. He cursed, took down the last attacker, and ran to me. His hand found the back of my neck, rough, trembling. You shouldn't be here, he growled. I wasn't going to hide while you died. He opened his mouth to argue, then froze. A red dot glowed on my shoulder. Down. He threw himself in front of me just as the bullet hit. The sound was deafening. Lucian staggered, a strangled breath escaping his throat. Blood bloomed across his shirt. No, Lucian. I caught him as he fell. His weight knocked the air out of me. The gun slid from his hand. Another explosion shook the hall. Dust rained from the ceiling. He pressed his palm weakly against my cheek. Stay behind me. Stop talking, I whispered. Please, just stay awake. I dragged him behind a wall, heart pounding so hard it hurt. His breathing was ragged, shallow. The wound was high on his chest, close to the shoulder, but too close to the heart. Don't close your eyes, Lucian. Look at me. He tried to smile. You disobey every order I give. I'll obey if you live. Tears blurred everything. Please don't die on me. He laughed weakly, a broken sound. You were never mine to keep, Aiden. I shook my head. You're wrong. I pressed my hand to his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. You didn't own me, you saved me. But somewhere along the way, my heart decided it belongs to you. For a moment, even the gunfire outside seemed to stop. His eyes softened, the first warmth I'd ever seen in them. Then they fluttered shut. Lucian! I screamed. I ripped a piece of my shirt and pressed harder, shouting for help until my voice cracked. Guards burst in seconds later. One of them radioed the med team. Another dragged me back, but I fought him, refusing to let go of Lucian's hand. He was so cold. The last thing I saw before they pulled me away was his face, pale, still, almost peaceful, and the fire eating through the mansion behind him. Hospital, 3 days later. White walls, beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic. I'd been sitting in that chair beside his bed for hours, or maybe days. I couldn't tell anymore. Lucian looked nothing like the man from the auction now. No armor, no suit, no mask. Just bandages and quiet breaths. They said the bullet missed his heart by a centimeter. If it had gone any deeper. I didn't let myself finish the thought. When he finally stirred, I almost didn't believe it. His fingers twitched first. Then his eyes opened, heavy and unfocused. Hey, I whispered. You're awake. He blinked slowly, finding my face. You're still here, he murmured. Of course I am. He tried to sit up. I stopped him. Don't move. Doctor said you need rest. He gave a faint, crooked smile. Since when do you follow orders? Since you almost died because of me. He looked at me for a long time, the smile fading into something softer. You saved me, Aiden. I shook my head. You saved me first. Silence stretched between us. Everything we hadn't said filled the space, the fear, the fire, the way our lives had crashed into each other like fate playing a cruel joke. Finally, I reached for his hand. It was warm again. I don't know what happens next, I said quietly. Maybe the Varellis come back. Maybe the world keeps hating people like me. But I know one thing. He looked up. What's that? I'm done being sold or saved or owned. I choose where I belong. And right now that's here. With you. His eyes glistened, not with tears, but something deeper. Hope, maybe. Or disbelief. He squeezed my hand. Then I'll spend whatever time I have left making sure you never have to run again. The monitor beeped steadily beside us. Outside the window, morning light touched the city, soft, golden real. I rested my head on the edge of his bed, finally breathing without fear. For the first time, the silence didn't hurt. Weeks later, the mansion stood rebuilt, quieter, emptier. I walked through its halls without guards following me now. Freedom still felt strange. Lucian was recovering slowly, scar across his chest like a promise he intended to keep. He worked less, smiled more. Sometimes he'd find me in the garden and say nothing at all. Just sit beside me, our hands brushing, the world suddenly bearable. One evening, I asked him, "Do you ever regret buying me?" He chuckled softly. "Every day." I frowned. "Really? Because the truth is, I didn't buy you. You walked into my life, and now I can't remember who I was before that." My heart stuttered. He reached for my hand, eyes steady. "You were never owned, Aiden. You were found." The last of the sun disappeared behind the trees, leaving us in the quiet glow of the garden lights. Somewhere far away, the city kept moving, full of danger and debts and blood. But for that moment, it all felt distant. I looked at him. The man who'd bought me, saved me, almost died for me, and whispered, "Maybe being found was the only thing I ever needed." He smiled, tired but real. "Then stay found." And I did, because my life wasn't measured in money anymore. It was measured in heartbeats, every one of them mine, and somehow his too.